We're talking business now, and nowadays, most of the things that we concentrate on, or the things that we worry about, the layman, is where do we get the right medication? Where do we get the right food? So when words like counterfeit, fake, and all those things come into the mixture, how does it affect the layperson, or how does it affect individuals like ourselves and the rest of the people in the studio? So with me today on set is Dr. Kwesi Amponsah-Terrier. He's a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School and organizational psychologist. And also we have Mrs. Elaine Sam Kwame, who's a PR and HR consultant who worked with Anglo Gold Ashanti and Gold Star Resources. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you both doing?
Fine.
Great. So like I said in the introduction, nowadays, most of the things that we want to make sure that are actually correct in order to live a sustainable life is our food, medication. And we want to know that these things are actually okay. So, currently we've had a recent Tobinco case. We've had oil spills from BP. We've had various organizations being marred or dented by scandals or things that have come out into the public. So we're just going to talk to you this morning and find out.
I think that, at the brand of any organization, actual fact, holds the organization. Because, there are some individuals within society who form what we call brand loyalty to product and wouldn't want to move away from that product.
Yeah.
So once the image of that brand is dented, it goes a very long way to affect the usage of that brand. Mm-hmm. It goes a very long way to affect the organization as a whole. So every organization will work extremely hard to protect the integrity of its brand. Mm-hmm. That is very, very important. Once your brand is touched, the organization as a whole is affected. And that organizations should go a long way to protect their brand, because brand is everything.
Ellen, let me ask you, how does one go about protecting their brand or their integrity?
Well, I think that you have to look at credibility in this case. If somebody is making a product or making a commitment to you, they want to believe that it's something that's going to last, something that will give them returns.
Yes.
Now, if you happen to have an image that starts skewing, as it were, then, of course, the question is, am I really putting my money where it should be?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, profitability is what every company is thinking about. And we say in PR that image is everything. Mm-hmm. When your image is gone, and like Doc said, goes with your brand, forget it. It means you don't exist.
Right.
Okay,
so, for instance, now, example, Tobinco, they've had a massive dent in their armor at this moment in time. Is it possible for them to recoup, and if so, how?
Well, if you are to ask me, yes, it is possible for them to recoup. That is why within organizations we have what we call rebranding. Well, through rebranding, they can bounce back. And rebranding can be a comprehensive rebranding or partial rebranding. In their case, if you ask me as an expert in the field, I would go for comprehensive rebranding. And comprehensive rebranding in the sense that, now out there, almost all the hospitals, almost individuals out there who use the product of this company are now trying to shy away from the product of the organization. So perhaps you would want to merge with a credible organization to go under that organization, irrespective of the equity that you are bringing. Just that you can still stay on. But the question is that, would you want to lose 13 years, 14 years of credibility and that visibility that you built for yourself because of it? Yes, you sometimes you have to lose it.
Especially if you want to continue.
Exactly, right. Exactly. So, rebranding can do it for them. And in doing so, if you still want to even maintain that brand, what partial rebranding could also go this way, where the key executives of the organization, you should give it a new face.
Right.
You should give it a new face because, now what is happening is more to be attributed to the role the executives in the organization played.
I was going to say that. So we're not just talking about the label of the brand or the name. We're talking about, actually heads rolling.
Obviously. And that is part of the branding process, the rebranding process as well. Especially if you want to go comprehensive.
Right.
So that, the people now know that, now We have new people. Well, I will think that, well, the current executive want to take the backstage and now bring in some more credible people, not that they are not credible, some more credible people to help, well, to be the face of the organization and help propel the organization on again. Another thing that they can do is to get an because well, as it stands now, one cannot say, it is FDA saying that, well, the products are not as substandard, if I should be. So if one thing they can do is to get an international organization to come out to certify the quality of the product.
Right. Okay.
So once an internationally recognized body comes out to say that, well, they disagree with what the FDA is saying. They think that, well, this product have gone through their lab, and that is being certified, being potent and being efficacious. Obviously, it builds public confidence.
So endorsement from
exactly. So,
okay.
So these are some of the things.
I think before you go to your next question, further to what Doc said, you in situations like this, it is critical that you evaluate how you got where you are.
Right.
Because there's no
so you
one
don't do
size
so you
fits
don't do
all.
it again.
Not only that, but that your prescription should be apt.
Right.
Because right now you've lost credibility, as it were. You've lost a big market.
Yep.
And you want to go in and regain it, even if in bits. But if you start by making mistakes with your analysis, then of course you are headed for extinction if you don't take care.
Wow.
So you want to make sure that right now, I would suppose that any company that gone through this is doing its SWOT very, very critically.
Right.
Looking at its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities and threats.
Realistically,
and this is not the time to be sentimental.
That's right, yeah.
Find out, like he said, if you want to change the faces, you want to make sure that those coming in are going to give you the value you are looking for.
Right.
So if you do things in a hurry, there may be a lot of emotions introduced into this, and you end up
I'm going to ask you this, Elaine, because obviously you've worked within HR as well as PR. With such scandals or issues that come up and which dent such a company, what are the effects on the company as a whole? I mean, we're not just talking about the executives, because, I mean, for instance, with the same issue, 600 workers have lost their jobs. So what's the effect as a whole on the company?
I think, as I said, you want to do your SWOT and do it well. You will have to segment your publics, your employees, your customers, anybody who deals with you, your investors, and then you want to handle this problem with them individually, such that at the end of the day, you have everybody understanding what the problem was and how we are solving it.
Right.
If the executives tend to take the problem to themselves and leave the employees out, you are going to have a problem there.
And also breeds speculation.
Not only that, to begin with, I work for TV3. It stands for something for you.
Yeah.
Right down to the person down there. If you think that TV3 is what it is because you are the chief executive, you have a big problem. So in a situation like this, one of the key questions you want to find out is, how well informed are your own employees about you?
Right.
How much do they know about you? What is their level of commitment? Because somebody can go out there and, oh, this is what we hear, your company now is coming out with poor products, and they should be able to explain what is happening, because people tend to take them more seriously than sometimes we think.
That's actually quite true, because they are the people on the ground, aren't
They
they?
are
They're
not
the ones
only
see
that,
everything.
they earn their keep from you.
Yeah.
If they are not committed to you, you have a big problem.
Okay.
Their commitment is key.
How effective or important is a press release or disaster management, should I say, in regards to such a situation like this?
Well, crisis management is its own art, and in a situation like this, you are in crisis, and you want to get out of it. The first thing you want to take out is panic.
Okay.
Much as it is a crisis, you are now like in a war zone. The generals have to sit down and take the cold facts. That's how they are able to strategize.
Right.
So right now, you are looking at your strategy to redeem your image. The press, of course, it goes without saying. After all, how did you and I get to know that there's an oil spill or there's a problem with medication? It was through the press. So you can reach more people through the press. But you have to begin with those very close to you. Before I come out with a press release to say XXX, I would want to believe that those who are directly involved with you know what is coming out. It's also very important.
Yes. So you're
because you can
page.
have, say, a non-executive director sitting somewhere who may not even know you are coming out with a press release to say, so his own wife can ask him, oh, what's this about your company? I don't even know. Then you understand.
Yeah.
So you have to get your publics, as it were, to think together. Press releases are very important. You have to state facts. This is not the time to try and be smart or clever. An oil spill is an oil spill. Everybody sees on television fish dying, and you cannot come out and say, I didn't do it.
Right.
Sometimes when you come out with the truth, you'll be surprised at the enormity of the sympathy you gain. Then the public knows that really it was not your intention to hide things from them or maybe cut corners, but things happen.
Doc, what's your opinion on that?
Basically, various scholars come up with various ways of dealing with such situations, especially in change management situations. Whereas some people will, for instance, Ketlowin will talk about you having to unfreeze, you having to move, you having to refreeze as a process. There are other scholars who think that, during situations like this, you have to invest in leadership, because leadership is key. Well, she made a very useful point, and I think that we should take note of that point, as in we having to diagnose what brought us to the current state first. In a crisis situation, this is not a time for us to act in a way that will rather throw the issues overboard. It is very important that we diagnose the causes, we get our stakeholders to understand. And when it comes to communication, there should be credibility in the information that is also going out there.
Right.
Because as it stands now, one company issues out a statement, the authorizing body also comes out with a counter statement.
Yeah.
Now the public then gets confused.
Yeah.
The stakeholders are now confused.
Right.
It is very, very important. You have various, even within your customers or your clientele base, some are literate, some are illiterate. How do you even go about it? In psychology, we say that, you can use a central system where you appeal to the conscience of people. There's also those that you have to appeal to their emotions.
Right.
Through using the peripheral system. So all this strategy, you don't just stand up and do it. It will have to come out from a very rigor diagnosis of the situation, how we got there, and indeed, the information that you put out there should be credible.
Yes.
Indeed, if you are talking about credible information, it means that you are presenting both sides.
Right.
Where you went wrong as an organization, you have to come out to admit that we went wrong this way, and then these are the things that mechanisms that we are putting in place to forestall any future occurrences.
Right.
And once you go that, you gradually, and I must say that it will not take a day. It is a gradual process to win the trust and the confidence of your stakeholders.
Very important. Okay, now let's look at it from the workers' angle. Now we've spoken about the executives, we've spoken about the company. If, for instance, I am a worker at the grassroots of a huge company, and all of a sudden I hear my executive is caught up in a big scandal, or hypothetically there's a merger or something that's shaking the foundation of the company, what should my reaction be as a worker?
Well, if you ask me, obviously, if I'm an employer of any such organization, definitely I get to realize that, my job is under threat.
Right.
So, as management of the organization, as you rightly said, you would have to start engaging the employee. And this is one thing that we don't do well in our country.
This is why because the reason why I'm asking this angle is because typically in Ghana, when we hear such a thing, you see workers, and then because at the end of the day, I don't know tomorrow if I have a job. Or if they come and ask me a question, because I don't know, I'll speculate and I'll talk. So what should I do?
When you have a company taking such important decisions, to the extent that you want to merge, your workers should know.
Communication.
You have your unions. You have right now, if you go to a lot of companies, you have senior staff association, you have your unions. So they've even made it easier for institutions to communicate. Even the decision to merge should be discussed.
Right.
Ashanti did this quite well, I must say. You should not hear that your business is going to make, then where do you get loyalty from?
Okay, but okay.
You want to make sure that, I would say that it's something that you should never, ever.
But let's say hypothetically that hasn't been done, which is the norm now.
If that has not been done, you better quickly do it.
Right.
Because I don't see any way forward. If you are going to take the next step, you've decided now that looking at your books, your profitability, your strategists tell you that the best thing to do is to merge, and you have not told them.
But the reason why I'm
so
asking
you are moving to the next step, and you've still not told them.
So
I can imagine a strike action.
We've got 600 people that lost their jobs, last week or the week before because of this particular case. Obviously, there was a breakdown in communication there. Now, with these employees, I mean, what can they or what should they do when they hear these things? Because there will be employees who, when they heard it first, they thought, okay, fine, my boss is in trouble, maybe tomorrow will be okay. And then they come to work and they realize that, well, I don't have a job.
Well, you see, the question you asked, to my mind, elicits two answers. Either the bosses were not being very forthright with the employees, because if it has happened, you know something has happened.
Yeah.
And you can tell immediately what the reaction is going to be, or what your prescription to solve the problem is going to be. If one of them is to lose employees, it means already you have a big problem you have not explained to them.
Right.
The next thing, you are making them the victim. That's how they will see it. They will not see themselves as part of the solution, because you've gone and caused that mess.
Yep.
Now you are telling me I should leave as what the solution? They will not make things easy for you.
Right.
Because don't forget that to lose employees or to shed numbers, there's a process.
Yes.
Yeah, and at a point, the unions can make things very, very difficult for you unnecessarily, just because you kept information.
Doc, your opinion on that?
Well, I think that, it is very, very important to engage more with our employees. It is very, very important because, you see, when the credit crunch was when it started in the UK. In the UK, one thing that most employers did was to engage the unions. And in one organization, much as some organizations were laying off employees, in the UK, one organization, the union decided that, rather than we losing our members, we would decide that we split the work. Each employee, instead of working 8 hours, we work 4 hours in a day. So, they kept all their employees. This was something that came from the union.
Right.
So rather than thinking that, our union or our employees are adapt, they are not knowledgeable. So we don't want to, this is a complex situation. We don't want, we rather put ourselves in a tight corner. It is important that from the onset, you get them realize that we are in it together. We either sink or we sail together. So, you involve them in the process. And in the process, let us be, as she said, let us be very forthright in our communication. Nothing like deception. So as we engage them in that process, if people are going to lose their jobs, you have to be forthright to mention to them that, in the process, some of you might have to lose your job, but eventually, as the organization gets up to its feet, you are the first people who will be recalled. If should that. So once you engage with them in that instance, this will, in a way, forestall any bitter feelings that employees have. Because, remember that your employees are your ambassadors. If the employee goes out there to say that, yes, I knew of this is what we've been doing in the company, because he is aggrieved. Because he wasn't involved in the process, and because he feels that he's losing his job, he can worsen the situation for you. So it is important that employees, we don't leave them out. Remember that the employees also have their families that depend on him. So one person losing his job
has affected more than
affected a lot of people. Yeah. That is why we have to be very careful in the process. Most of the times in our country, when we are laying people off, redundancy exercises, we don't even offer training to the people that we are laying off. Yep. We are thinking that we are paying them something to go home and do, so you are doing your part. No, that is not good enough. It is important that, the people that you are laying off are given some training in some, financial management training. You have to give them some training on how even to prepare their CV and prepare for interview. Because some of them are still young and could go back to look for a job. You have to give them some psychological counseling. Because in that state that they find themselves, they cannot even reason properly. And these are some of the things that organizations can do Two, regain the confidence of employees even when they've left the organization.
Remember that once you employ somebody, they have a lifetime contract with you, irrespective of the time they leave.
Really?
Yes.
So run out TV3 and
if you ask me, and if anybody asks me, I'll tell you that I thought that the first company I worked for, UAC of Ghana, company. Was the best training ground. And I've said it to so many people. I left them years ago.
Wow.
But the image you leave of your company is important.
Right.
So management, to my mind, has absolutely no business leaving employees out of any communication.
Right.
You should not wait to have a problem before you expect allies in employees. It's very critical.
Okay.
Make sure that they are your allies from the day they
Day
walk
one.
in.
All right, last question to you both, and it's only because we were just discussing it as well. When it comes to these kind of things, first thing that you probably find is that there are massive layoffs in order to recoup some kind of financial loss. Is that the best course of action for a company that's been dented?
You remember we spoke about diagnosing the problem properly.
Yeah.
See, sometimes when you have not really done your homework well, you may start adopting remedies which
are not necessary.
Are not just necessary, but probably will cost you.
Right.
Because usually when you want to lay people off, those who volunteer to go are the ones you need.
Right.
You've trained them, they have the skills, they can market themselves elsewhere.
True.
So they want to take their money and run. So you tend up to be left with those you still need to train, or those who probably you didn't want in the first place.
Right.
Okay. So even the process of layoff itself is an art that has to be very well done.
Right.
Who should go, for what reason? Because you want to continue growing your business.
Yes.
And who would want to train people and just shed numbers? You want them to be with you. But it is how you go about it, that will either compound the problem or help you, as it were, redeem your image, finally.
Doug?
Well, basically, there is this approach that we call the action research approach in changing organization during crisis situation. First, you diagnose the problem. And in diagnosing the problem, you diagnose it together with all the stakeholders within the organization. Once you've done that, you analyze, because diagnosis, either through focus group discussion, either through interviews, either through the administration of questionnaires. You get to understand all this. Having diagnosed the problem, you go to analyze it to find out what the issues look like. Now, having gotten this information, you don't keep it to yourself. You get back to them and feed it back to them.
Right.
Per our diagnosis, these are the things that we found. Do you all agree to them? And having fed it back to them, together with them again, you decide on the path to go.
Right.
And once you have agreed on the path to go, you implement it, and in the process, you review it. As it's being implemented, you review the process to see whether they are yielding the results that we want.
This same strategy can be applied to government.
Obviously. These are the things that we need to
I
do.
laugh because I know that somehow
we're poking them. I agree with you fully, and I want to say thank you ever so much for actually coming in. This has been Dr. Kwesi Amponsah-Teria, lecturer, University of Ghana Business School and organizational psychologist, and also Mrs. Elaine Sam Kwame, PR and HR consultant who worked with Anglo Gold Ashanti and Gold Star Resources. Thank you ever so much for being so candid with us this morning and telling us a little bit more about these situations.